Hello, I'm Adrian Clarke and welcome to the breakdown. Conceding a last kick of the match winner. Arsenal's long unbeaten run came to an end in devastating fashion at Villa Park, and today I'm going to dissect some of the key moments that took place at both ends of the pitch. There were some great bits, but also plenty that weren't so good. And I've got to say, from a tactical perspective, sometimes it is more interesting to analyse the problems and the areas that Arsenal can improve on. So I'm going to start today's show by focusing on the bits that Arsenal certainly will wish they did better. In essence, I have to say that the Gunners kind of fell into Unai Emery's trap in this match. They're a team that, for me, are very much at their best on counters and transitions. They got great power and pace in those situations. They're not that great when they've got a lot of the ball and they have to break you down, but when they win it back and they've got lots of good ball winners, they do explode forward at pace. And I think that from an Arsenal perspective, we left ourselves far too open to those counters and transitions. Look, you kind of can't have it both ways. Against Liverpool, Arsenal were criticised for being too cautious and for being really pragmatic and not rolling the dice. Now, because they were worried about counters and transitions. And of course here, Arsenal, on the back of a long unbeaten run, I think they felt confident that they could go to Villa Park and win the game. And they're right to do that. But did we maybe not get the balance right in terms of going all out to score goals and shutting up shop a little bit and making sure that we weren't caught out so much? And I think the answer is no, we didn't get the balance quite right. And I'm going to run you through a lot of examples from the game because Aston Villa created some good opportunities. Let's start with one in the first half. I'll kind of go in chronological order. Now, this one isn't from a counter or a transition. It's for an Emi Martinez goal kick. So let's have a look at how we set up. We've gone to press, as we always do. But Villa have left three out front. It's a 3-on-3 that we've left ourselves with. Ben White's gone and squeezed up quite high up the pitch. And they go along with a goal kick. Now, Zubimendi gets his head on it, but he can't get any distance. And it comes back at us. And that's where the problems lie. As we roll it on, you see Calafiori is just too keen to get involved. He's tried to run inside to go and win the header. Now, there might have been a foul on him. Mikel Arteta said that he thinks there was a foul from McGinn on him. He hits the deck. And because he hits the deck, suddenly it's a 3 versus 2, and that is a big problem. As we see, that Hincapié is really exposed because Timber is wide of him. He's been looking after Rodgers, and McGinn, with Calafiori on the deck, is able to slide him in, and we're really fortunate. And, Odegaard really to David Raya, who made a terrific save after Watkins goes in and tricks his way past Hincapié and Jiri and Timber. So, look, from a simple goal kick, we were undone a little bit easily by leaving ourselves 3v3. Now, that's not a massive criticism. Well, what I will say is that Calafiori was just too eager to get involved and go and win the header when he didn't need to. He could have just left it to Zubimendi, stayed in his position, and I don't think that chance would have come about. Now, afterwards, Mikel Arteta talked about sort of the problems arising when we lost the ball unexpectedly and that we had players out of position, and he's absolutely bang on with that assessment. This is a brilliant example of it. And I want to show you how Arsenal have set up because that's very, very important. So here we go. And Bukayo Saka's got it on the right-hand side. And I've circled there White and Calafiori. Now, that's our two fullbacks. Look how advanced they are. Look how central they both are at the same time. That's risky. A lot of the time, we love it because it creates overloads and we've got, adventurous players and we're causing teams problems. But when you misplace a pass, like Saka does here, it's a really loose square pass to Odegaard that's never really on, gets cut out by camera, you really do leave yourselves exposed. And that's what happened here. Remember, no Gabriel, no Saliba. So we've got an inexperienced central defensive partnership there with Zubimendi in front. And Zubimendi isn't so good, I don't think, in bigger spaces when play gets stretched. And you see here, as we roll it on, he is played around. They steal the ball. You can see White and Hincapié, they're trying to get themselves back but can't. Zubimendi's bypass and they raid down the left. Keep your eye on the bottom of the screen there, Matty Cash. Now, Eza is wide of him. You can probably see his shadow right in the bottom left-hand corner. Eza really should have reacted a bit quicker here to the danger. He's wider of Cash, who makes that run on the inside of him. And as you'll see, as the ball comes into the box, Eza hasn't made it, and Cash has. He gets on the end of that cross, and look, Declan Rice. It's not Raya this time. It's Declan Rice with a brilliant block inside the box. So that was unnecessary, I would say, in terms of maybe having White and Hincapié in those advanced positions, because if you do lose the ball with a square pass, you really do leave the team a little bit exposed. They did score, of course, on 36 minutes. It came via Matty Cash, who we just seen. And look, this one really, I think you can just put it down to an individual area, but there were a couple of other aspects of it that I think we could maybe look at and think, well, if this situation arises again, can we set up a little bit differently? Can we take up alternative positions? So let's freeze it here. Okay, so it's Pau Torres, the left side centre back's got the ball. There's no pressure on the ball. I've circled Timber there in red. He's in no man's land there. He's been drawn across, hasn't he, towards the right back. And I don't think there's any need, because what it leaves is that big hole in the middle of the box for Watkins v Hincapié. And we don't want 1v1s inside the box. We don't want big holes like that appearing. So Timber's starting position really should be much more central inside the box there. Maybe it's because he hasn't played centre back for a long time. He gets drawn across over that side, and that leaves us with a problem. I've also put some alternative arrows in orange there of Calafiori and Eza. Could Eza have picked up McGinn, a player that's less likely to try and make a run into the box on the inside, and Calafiori takes the runner, who is Matty Cash? I think maybe in future, can Eza tuck in and do that, and Calafiori stays with the wide man. As we roll it on, we all saw the goal. Brichi Eza sort of, I don't know, I think he expects Hincapié to maybe clear it. He's on his heels, and Matty Cash steals him behind his back and finishes fantastically, I have to say, on the volley. So, we're behind, we're chasing the game. We'll get to the good bits, and there was a lot of good stuff early on in the second half. Loved our intensity, but after what was a fantastic, I'd say, 10 or 15 minutes, Villa did start to create some big chances. And again, it often came through us overcommitting and really throwing too many men forward and leaving this makeshift centre-back partnership too exposed. So this one here is from a quick throw-in. So, the ball's gone out, Villa have picked the ball up, and bang, they just throw it into Tielemans, who gets away from Zubimendi. And Calafiori's, in an advanced position. White is ahead of the ball. It's a problem, and it's a 2v2, and he gets away, and he tests David Raya. Here's another example to show you. This one it's not from a counter. It's just, again, with our positioning. Okay, so we've kept a high line. There's no pressure on the ball at right back. And Calafiori wants to get touch tight to Morgan Rogers, and that comes with risk because it's inviting the pass over the top. I've circled in red the position of Tielemans, and that was a problem because, as you'll see, White's got two players, so Timber has to restrain himself in his position because he's looked over his shoulder. There's Tielemans, Zubimendi's got somebody else. He's thinking, right, I can't go too far left. I can't get that much closer to Hincapié here because Tielemans is on my shoulder. And that's a little bit of a problem. Could we pull Saka back maybe, or Zubimendi here, and allow Timber to close the gap on Hincapié? As we roll it on, Calafiori sort of misjudges it. The ball goes over his head. He misjudges the flight of the ball. There's a little bit of a mix-up between him and Hincapié. And they tow it to Daniel Marlon, and Marlon's in. The gap is too big. You see it there, marked in orange between Timber and Hincapié. That's too big. He's got to be closer there, the Dutchman, and he can't effect it. They slip it inside, and luckily for us, he knocks the ball wide. Earlier on, I talked about Arteta's frustration at losing the ball unexpectedly and Villa capitalising. Well, this is a fantastic example I'm going to show you here. It begins actually with, I don't know if it was a set piece. We certainly had a sustained period of pressure, and Timber has the ball on the left wing, and he sort of runs it around the pitch in an arc. He keeps hold of it, and then darts across the pitch. Now, I'll show you here on the screen, so many players are ahead of the ball. White is really high. Rice is over on the left wing. Zubimendi's inside the box waiting for that cross to come in initially. Everyone, most players are ahead of the ball. And what he does there, he cuts across the pitch, tries to play a forward pass. And it's a really loose one from Trossard, who otherwise did great, I thought. It ricochets off Tielemans. It goes to Watkins. It goes back to Tielemans. And then he releases Rodgers for the counter. And we're in no position to handle that counter-attack. And as you can see, Rodgers makes loads of strides up the pitch. He's a hard man to stop. White's nowhere near him. Hincapié can't get there. Timber can't get there, rather. Calafiori's a little bit slow to react on the other side, and they slip him in. And again, it's a big chance. I think it's a block in the end from Hincapié. So look, we over and over again, we left ourselves a little bit too open for those transitions, and that is Villa's game. Look, last but not least, in terms of the negatives, we've got to look at the winning goal. And this is a bit different. It's just a string of little tiny errors from 2 or 3 different players that caused the problem. So let's just break it down bit by bit. It starts actually with Hincapié, sort of a little bit over-eager. It's a heavy touch. It goes out for a throw, and Villa quickly get the ball back into play. And they move the ball from left to right, and we're sort of scrambling to get back into position. We'll have a look at it here. Okay, so there's a little slip pass there from Tielemans to his right. And I've got a little star there where I think Gabriel Martinelli should be. As the left-sided winger, it's the last minute of the game. You're under pressure. He's had enough time as the ball's come across there for me to just drop in onto the toes of Morgan Rodgers and sit in. And he's a bit slow to react, and he's ahead of the ball. He's in no position to affect things. So they move the ball out to Rodgers. And then Lewis Skelly's in a bit of a pickle. He doesn't get tight enough to him, and they're able to slip the ball to Marlon inside the box. And from here, you'll see Lewis Skelly. Can he work harder to impact Rodgers there? That little slip pass from Marlon. He's more interested in nicking the ball off Marlon's toes than he is sort of blocking Morgan Rodgers, and he can't get anywhere near him in terms of stopping the cross. And for me, that has to be the priority there. I've also circled Zubimendi inside the box. He's in a good position. He's got Tielemans. There shouldn't be a problem, but there is. The ball comes into the far stick. It's nodded back in, and as you see there, he's gone to sleep, Zubimendi, and Tielemans has got the wrong side. Gets a little close range shot in. It's brilliantly saved by Raya. And we all know what happened next with the scramble. 2 unbelievable blocks. 2 crazy blocks from Timber. I think Rice is in there. There's a few of us. It's heroic defending. And then, of course, it falls really nicely to Buendia, who puts it into the back of the net. Again, I did think Zubimendi was a bit slow to react to the block, but I'm not going to pin that on him. It was just a crushing goal, wasn't it? And really, really disappointing. So it's just a culmination of several little things that went wrong for us, and that's what happens when you concede goals. Now let's talk about some of the good stuff. We had a goal disallowed in the first half. It's lovely, wasn't it, to see Saka, White, and Ødegaard reunited, and that little triangle that between Saka and Ødegaard, the little bounce pass. It's something we've seen so much, and it worked to great effect. Unfortunately, obviously, for the disallowed goal, Bukayo Saka just goes a fraction early with the run, and he is offside, as you can see on the screen. But that little square pass, little run in behind, and then, of course, he puts it across the face of goal for Eze. That's quality football. It really is. The goal was great. I thought our intent at the start of that second half was fabulous. Real energy and determination, and we were all over Aston Villa. It was very, very impressive stuff. And that shouldn't be forgotten in light of this result. Don't suddenly think Arsenal lost this game. They played terribly throughout. They didn't. They really didn't. This was 2 teams that slugged it out. But I want to sort of just highlight how that goal came about. And it came about because of Declan Rice, who probably didn't have his greatest game. He was good in parts. But he wins the ball in the middle of the pitch. He makes a good run. It's not really on for him to win. Gets across and toes it, and then Saka's away. And then we see Saka and Ødegaard combine. Lovely little overlap from Saka. Cross comes in, and Trossard, who was absolutely superb once he came onto the pitch, pops up at the far post to score the equaliser. And from then on, you could see that the players really did believe that they would go on and get the second goal, and so did I, because we were creating lots of chances. We'll get to the numbers of chances very shortly. For me, this was the biggest chance, and the one that I look back on and think, if only this had gone in. Here it is now. It comes, I think, from a corner. It's knocked back from Calafiori. It gets half cleared to Saka. And I think you give this to Saka 10 times, he scores it 8 or 9. I've put in red there the angle he should probably have found. It's not that hard a shot, really, just to bend it past the defender into the empty corner. Keeper's in no man's land. But the angle of his shot is the white line, and it allows the defender to get something on it, and it's blocked. So that was really, really frustrating. Thinking about Arteta and what he did at half time, he did the right thing. On commentary at half time, I sort of criticised the impact or the lack of impact from Merino and Eze. I think Eze had 13 touches, Merino 17, the two lowest in that first half. Eze was very much on the edge of the game. Obviously, he's made a couple of mistakes as well. And Merino was a bit isolated, I think, with Ødegaard coming deep a lot. We didn't have anything around him, and I think that was a bit of a problem. As well as Ødegaard played, I think it didn't help Merino. I think he enjoyed it more when Eze was up there in support, playing as that sort of twin false nine. I liked what he did at half-time. I thought it was decisive action. I would have made those changes at half-time as well. I would have brought on Gyökeres against that higher Villa line, and I would definitely have brought on Trossard, and obviously Trossard did superbly. I think, you look back at the game and you have to say that Saka had a really good game. He's involved in a lot of our big moments. He had that header wide, didn't he, as well? The part in the disallowed goal, the part in the goal itself. He set up White for a good chance in the first half with a cutback as well. I think Saka had 4 shots, touched the ball 10 times inside the Villa box, which was way more than anyone else. He made 4 chances during the game. So I think Saka can look himself in the mirror and say he had a good game. I think, in general, my view, certainly during the match, this was a brilliant Premier League match. It was end to end. It was absorbing. It was two teams really sort of slugging it out, and ultimately that's why we lost the game, because it was end to end and a little bit too open, I think, and it drained us. After a punishing schedule, I think we just ran out of a little bit of gas. But look, the upside is that we created loads. We had 9 shots on target in this game. 9 shots on target. That's the most we've had in a Premier League away game since April 2024 at Molineux. So that's towards the end of last season against Wolves. 9 shots on target. It's our most on record at Villa Park since 03-04, since records began. So, we created more than enough chances to win the game. You can see it here on the screen. The Arsenal shots are on the left-hand side. Look at all those shots. The green arrows are shots on target. And at the other end of the pitch, far fewer really from Aston Villa. Yes, they did have good chances, but not as many as us. And look, but what happened was that they really did stretch us, and we were forced. Obviously, Raya was forced into saves, but defenders were really having to work overtime. And I think that is a positive, even though you don't want to be stretched and have to make last-ditch blocks. We did make a lot. I mean, here there are 7 blocks inside the box coming from a variety of different players. So it's a minor positive, I would suggest. It was just, you'd prefer really that Aston Villa aren't getting anywhere near your box and you're keeping them at arm's length. But the way that we played tactically in the game meant that they were going to have these dangerous opportunities, and they looked exceptionally threatening from them, didn't they? So that's kind of how I assess the game. A brilliant match, but too open for Arsenal's liking. I think you want a little bit of a better balance. Something between what we saw there and what we saw at Liverpool. Something a little bit more balanced in terms of, yes, we've got the attacking attempt. We want to go and win the game. But also, let's not take unnecessary risks and maybe not push both fullbacks on at the same time. And when we do have the ball in good areas, let's take a lot more care over those passes, because if you lose the ball as we did, then we're playing a team that's absolutely dynamite on those transitions. Right, let's wrap things up with some player ratings as always. A real mixed bag this week, I have to say. I'm going to start with David Raya, 8. I thought he was terrific, but really strong performance from him. Some great saves. I wish he was less busy, but he earned his core. Ben White, I'm going to go 6. Missed a good chance in the first half. Did fine on the ball and was good as an attacking outlet, but I didn't think he was amazing defensively. Timber, 6, pointed out some of the mistakes that he's made in the game. Struggled, I think, to get close enough to Hincapié. Hincapié I'm going to give an 8 to. I thought he was terrific. He made 7 clearances in the game. He was the dominant centre-half, and he's really stretched, but he stood up to it. He stood up to the test. Calafiori is a 6. Again, 1 or 2 mistakes in there. Certainly wasn't anywhere near his best before he came off. Obviously got booked, so he missed the Wolves game. Zubimendi, I'm going to give him a 5. I don't think he's as good when you have to cover large distances. He didn't provide a great deal of protection in front of that back four. When you're looking for him to just pick up a few interceptions and break up play, he was just not quite there. And on the ball, he did fine, but it wasn't a massive influence. So, yeah, a bit below par from Zubimendi. It was the type of game he struggles in. So I'm going to mark him down to a 5. Rice 7. He won the ball 10 times for the team, which is excellent. Got back in and made 5 clearances as well. And yeah, there's one ball he put into the box for Gyökeres and Madueke towards the end that was absolutely outstanding. You were hoping that Gyökeres really sort of reads what's going to happen and gets there earlier, but he's about 10 yards behind play. He came short for the pass when it got switched to Rice and couldn't make up the ground, unfortunately. But Rice was good. Ødegaard, I think, was excellent. I'm going to give him the main man, actually, 8. But he's my man of the match. I thought he was probing all the time. I think he had 3 shots, all on target. An absolute ripper of his left foot. Tested Emi Martinez. That would have been one of the goals of the season. He made 3 chances. He won possession 7 times. He was really busy. He was at the heart of most good things I think that Arsenal did in the game. So Ødegaard, great to see him back and in good form. Saka 7, I've talked about him already. And then I'm going to go with Marino and Eze. I'm going to give them 5. They were a little bit off it. In terms of the subs, Trossard's a definite 7. Great goal. Got himself in at the far post a number of times and really lifted the team, and it made an impact. Definitely, it's a positive impact. And then the other subs didn't. I think for Gyökeres, very quiet. Madueke the same. Lewis Skelly, small part in the winning goal that where he maybe could have done a bit better. I'm going to give all those 5s, unfortunately, on this occasion. As for the manager, Mikel Arteta, I'm going to go 6 for Mikel. I really liked his in-game changes. I thought that the subs at half-time were perfect. And I loved the team talk because it got the players really revved up for that second half. And they were very much at it, weren't they? So that was the really good side. But overall, the tactical game plan for me was too open. It played into Unai Emery's hands. He knew that we would commit those bodies forward, or he was expecting it. And of course, they were primed and ready to explode into life whenever they won the ball back because they knew that our centre-backs would be exposed. And I just think that Mikel could maybe have made us a touch more compact in this particular game because that is what Villa wanted us to do. We did leave ourselves exposed. So yeah, look, desire to win the game was great, but the execution of the finishing and the balance of our tactical approach could certainly have been a little bit better, in my opinion. So yeah, look, we just got to get back on the horse and make sure that we win against, the Club Brugge game. Hopefully we'll see a fair bit of rotation there. I think that's needed. And then it's Wolves at home next weekend. That's an absolute must-win. And hopefully Arsenal can get themselves back on a winning run and a long, long unbeaten run because they're absolutely capable. We haven't become a bad side overnight. This was just maybe a game too far, and we didn't quite get our approach right on the day. That's my assessment. Right, I shall be back after the Club Brugge game, so make sure you join me here on the breakdown for that. For now, it's bye from me.